will continue in all of our hearts. That's why we're here today, because we have been impacted. But when Peggy was first diagnosed with the cancer, and it was a rapid form the very moment she was diagnosed with it, really no time to even figure it out. Both myself and her, the staff, the church family, everybody gathered around and we prayed, and we thought it's going to be a matter of weeks, and yet she continued to put up the dukes and fight the sickness for a long time. But during that time, our church went through a very interesting principle. We called it the Peggy principle. And what we did is we had people sign up that wanted to be involved for 30 days on the Peggy principle. And the idea was, if you were given 30 days to live, what are some things that you want to accomplish? What are some relationships that are fragmented that you want to fix? What are some goals, some dreams? What are some things that you would love to do? What are the top 3 things that you would love to do if you only had 30 days? And I tell you, it was like a little mini revival. We had people calling their parents whom they hadn't talked to in years and said, I want to get right with my parents if I only had 30 days. And things were beginning to click along, so we called it the Peggy principle. And various people in the church would give a short testimony snippet on a video. We'd play it on the monitors about what the Peggy principle was teaching them. What would you do if you, like Peggy, were facing death? We had no idea God was going to let her stay around as long as she did. But Peggy did one of those videos, and I forgot about it. And I never saw it. And the church never saw it, and Bob never saw it. But we found it. And she being dead, yet speaketh. And this is what Peggy has to say about ending her own celebration of life service.
Well, good morning, Global Vision, if it's morning when you're hearing this. I was kind of startled when Pastor Jared asked me if there was anything I would like to say to the body, because there's about 100,000 things I would like to say to the body. Mainly, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for the support you have given me, for putting up with me almost the last 3 years as I was growing to be a full-fledged member of this body. And most especially to my group of ladies who has adopted me. They have ramrodded through my treatments. In fact, Judy diagnosed my illness before I ever had my first doctor's appointment. She ramrodded that, and then she and Kim went into my first oncology appointments with me. And fair warning to all of you, when you see either one of them winding it out, looking like they're going into high gear, you'd best step aside because they're getting ready to take over. And I really appreciate them big time. And something that has been sticking in my mind ever since I've been coming here, out on Old Lebanon Dirt Road, right before you get to this building, there is one of those yellow and black road signs that I've always gotten a huge charge out of, because it says dangerous intersection. And this is an incredibly dangerous intersection. It's dangerous, number one, for our enemy, because when he slithers into this place, as he frequently does, he hears all these tales of his upcoming fiery demise, and he even hears some cheering at times. This is a dangerous intersection for fence sitters and for Sunday-only Christians who think they can come in here and be all clean and pretty and smiley on Sundays and go live the other 6 days any way they want to, because they find out different. And a lot of them don't stay, so they don't make it through this intersection. And quite truthfully, I almost didn't make it through this dangerous intersection, because when I first came here, I really didn't think I would fit. The enemy didn't want me here, but the Lord wanted me here more. Let me tell you about my very first day here. There's one person in this whole wide world that I honestly think I will never, ever be able to get along with. And just as the opening prayer started, my first day here, I looked up and that person sat down in the very front row. And I didn't hear much of that opening prayer because I was too busy talking to the Lord myself, informing him that, Lord, in case you don't realize it, this is a deal breaker. You know, I can't, I can't come to this church. And he said, woman, what are you talking about? Deal breaker. I kept my end of the deal. And I just realized, yes, you did. So, I'll give it a shot. Next thing I knew, it was Christmas time. And Christmas that year, still having a hard time, hadn't made any friends. But Christmas that year fell on a Sunday. So I was thinking, okay, there's all kinds of controversy in the papers this year about churches that are going to close on Christmas. This is a week away, and I have not heard yet if we're having a Christmas service this Sunday or not. And I wasn't talking to the Lord this time. He just butted in. I was thinking, if there's no service on Christmas, I'm out of here. And the response that I sensed back from him was, woman, you're out of there when I say you're out of there. Opened my eyes and looked up, and here's this young woman coming at me from about 10 rows away in tears, and all of a sudden she's in my arms. And also all of a sudden I am giving deepest thanks to the person who sent me here and kept me here through all my whining, the person who finally convinced me very gently that it wasn't all about me, that I was old enough to grow up. And a few weeks later, I heard Pastor explain why this church seemed so weird to me when I hadn't even asked him. I found out that according to his figures, 80% of the people in this body had either been unsaved or unchurched 5 years prior to coming here. And all of a sudden it made sense. The people here didn't act like the church people I was used to because they weren't. They didn't know how church people were supposed to act. So our pastor and staff were having to teach them how church people were supposed to act, and it was being done straight from the book of Acts. And once I saw that, accepted it, realized how blessed I was to be in a place like this, the Lord put me on an absolute, totally fast track of spiritual growth because he knew where I was going to be today. And if I'd had the slightest idea that I would be getting the diagnosis that I got recently, I'd say 3 or 4 months ago, I'd have been nothing but a blob of jelly on the floor. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. And I still wonder how I am, because I'm not considering this a curse. I'm not being punished for anything. I'm not being abandoned. I've been given actually a very, very special gift, the gift of knowing that my time is short. But I have to warn you, if you are blessed enough to receive this gift, it's not a free gift at all. There are tons of strings attached to it. Mainly, there's responsibility attached to it. Because as Pastor said a couple of months ago in closing a message, we need to preach as dying men to dying men. And since we're all dying, he was talking to every single one of us. You have relatives dying all around you. You have friends dying all around you. You have enemies dying all around you. And I've just got to ask you, how much do you have to hate them not to share the truth of the gospel with them? The truth that you have and they don't. So you see why this was almost a dangerous intersection for me too. Let me just close by thanking every one of you again for putting up with me, for helping me through this dangerous intersection. And 2 parting shots. One from one of my favorite TV personalities, a guy named Todd Friel, does a show named Wretched. He always closes by saying, until tomorrow. That glorious tomorrow, when Melissa won't have to clean house anymore, when homeschools will be closed because all things will be known, he says, until tomorrow, go serve your king. My other is what I will call a lock-in. Some churches refer to them as PowerPoints or maybe take-homes. I refer to them as lock-ins. That's spelled L-O-C-K-E-INS. And you'll see them in my sermon notes in square brackets. Pastor Greg is very fond of saying that the teacher is always silent during the test. And absolute final closing, I love you all immensely. He loves you more. And time is very short.